Hey guys. Hello. What is up, everybody? Pastor Channer here. Good to see you guys. Welcome. Hope you had a good day today. I know I am excited to get into the stream. I wanted to stream earlier in the week, but it just wasn't happening, okay? So sometimes you gotta move at the speed of life, all right? What's up, Tin Man? Good to see you. Welcome. I hope you're doing well. And what is it? Is it Wednesday? Happy Wednesday, everyone. Got a little bit of tea. I've got a oolong here called Ali Shan, which is very, very nice, from Adagio Teas. I believe it's a Taiwanese oolong. So just got the one cup. I'm not steeping a bunch tonight. Just the one cup and some sermon prep. Looking forward to it. Tin Man, doing great here. Good. Glad to hear it. We're going to go ahead and jump in, and we're on Jephthah this week. This is a challenging passage. And let me just go ahead and show you what I got. I've been working on it already this week. So let me show you what I got, and we can go from there. So here you can see I got a lot of stuff written down, and one of the things I'm focusing on there are two interpretations of Jephthah, okay? For those who don't know, Jephthah is the one who made a rash vow. He's the judge who is known for essentially saying to God, hey, if you give me the victory, then I will sacrifice whatever comes out of my gates to greet me when I get home. And so then he heads home, and his daughter comes out of the gates to greet him. And he gets really upset, tears his garments, and is essentially like, what have you done, my daughter? And that's it. Just kind of leaves it there. And there's this little verse that says he did to her as he said he would. And so a lot of people think that means he sacrificed his daughter like he promised in his vow. And that's really tough to deal with. Why? It'd be one thing if Jephthah was not treated with any sort of assessment in terms of whether or not he was a good judge, a bad judge, or anything like that. Like if it just let it lie, this happened, then the majority of interpreters would essentially say, yeah, he was a bad judge. He did a bad thing. This is wrong. So we could just leave it at that, right? But the problem is Hebrews 11:32. Let me go ahead and show you. So here's the challenge. Hebrews 11:32 says, "What more shall I say? Time would fail me to tell of Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, and David, and Samuel and the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, enforced justice, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions." So there you go, right there. Jephthah is listed in the Hall of Fame of Faith. And so the implicit question is essentially this: how on earth could a judge that sacrificed his daughter ever be listed in the New Testament in the Hall of Fame of Faith? It's a tough question. It's a tough question. So that's what we're dealing with this week. It's a challenging one. I listened to 5 sermons this week on the topic. And a lot of people, wrestle with whether or not he did this. I will say there is an interpretation that says Jephthah did not sacrifice his daughter, and instead he committed her to lifelong celibacy. Okay. And that's because if you go back to the original passage, there is a whole section there where she's essentially mourning the fact that she is going to die a virgin, right? And a lot of people say it's not that she's going to die, but she's just mourning the fact that she's a virgin. And the idea being, why emphasize this? Well, perhaps it's because he committed her to lifelong celibacy, in a sense devoted to the Lord for some sort of special religious position, right? So you can read it here. Jephthah came to his home at Mizpah, and behold, his daughter came out to meet him with tambourines and with dances. She was his only child. Besides her, he had neither son nor daughter. And as soon as he saw her, he tore his clothes and said, "Alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low. You have become the cause of great trouble to me, for I have opened my mouth to the Lord. I cannot take back my vow." She said, "My father, you've opened your mouth to the Lord. Do to me according to what has gone out of your mouth, now that the Lord has avenged you on your enemies, the Ammonites." And she said to her father, "Let this thing be done to me. Leave me alone 2 months, that I may go up and down on the mountains and weep for my virginity, I and my companions." And so that's the idea is, no, this isn't a permanent thing. Excuse me, this isn't death, but it's a permanent commitment to virginity, right? That's the idea. So that's one interpretation. Turn her into a nun. Right, there you go, epitome. There you go, exactly. So that's like one take on it. And then, the majority of people take it that he sacrificed her. Right here. Let's see. And at the end of 2 months, she returned to her father, who did with her according to his vow that he had made. There you go. It's tough. What's up, Zephira? How you doing? Welcome. Greetings. Getting right into it. Pastor Doosty recommended this channel. Well, that's awesome. Welcome, Zephira. So, yeah, I want you to know my name's Pastor Tanner, and I do sermon preparation, okay? So I work on my sermons for Sundays, and I try to interact with people who are chatting, and we just have good discussion, conversation, and I try to work on Bible stuff. So that's what my channel's all about. I'm glad that Dooston recommended me. That's awesome. And, of course, I recommend Dooston. Really appreciate that, brother. And, yeah, he does a lot of different stuff on his channel. He's really cool. But I don't do any gaming or anything like that. We just get into the word, okay? So that's what we're all about here, Zephira. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask. We'll do our best, all right? Welcome. Cal Magic, good to see you. How are you, Cal Magic? It's good to see you. Welcome. Cal Magic said, in addition, women who were barren considered themselves as dead. It was a condition that was absolutely devastating to women. So that might be one consideration of her virginity and the fact that perhaps he didn't kill her. Interesting. Like I said, a lot of interpretations on this one. Most interpreters say that he did follow through and killed her. Zephira, so she is handling the loss of her partners as a death then. No, what's happening, Zephira, let me read this to you. Her father made a vow that he should not have made, right? Then the Spirit of the Lord was upon Jephthah. He passed through Gilead and Manasseh and passed to Mizpah of Gilead. And from Mizpah of Gilead, he passed on to the Ammonites. And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord and said, if you will give me the Ammonites into my hand, then whatever comes out of the doors of my house to meet me when I return in peace from the Ammonites shall be the Lord's. I will offer it up for a burnt offering. So the typical interpretation is that Jephthah is assuming that when he gets home, you know, like a sheep or a goat, something like that, is going to come through the doors, and then he's going to sacrifice that, right? Sheep or goat or something like that. And then his daughter comes out to greet him with tambourines and dancing. And then he gets really upset, and he's like, I made such a rash vow. And that's why I entitled the stream Jephthah's rash vow, right? Because that's usually the area of emphasis, is the fact that he said this when he shouldn't have. So yeah, it's a real challenge. It's a real challenging text. And again, what makes it all the more challenging is Jephthah is praised in Hebrews 11:32. Not necessarily for this event, but he is praised as being a man of great faith. What more shall we say? For time would fail me to tell of Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, of David and Samuel and the prophets. So that's one of the challenges. That's one of the challenges. Cal Magic says, God warns against making vows. Yes. There's a lot of conversation about that in the Old Testament and the New Testament. Jesus says, let your yes be your yes and your no be your no. That's a piece. And so, yeah, this is something where we can absolutely learn about vow taking here. And it's very relevant to our conversation discussion. So, yeah, that's where we're at. It's not an easy one. I'll tell you guys that much. Not an easy one. So we're going to try our best to work through it and see what we come up with. Man, that is great tea. Guys, Alishan, Taiwanese oolong, loving that. Absolutely loving it. Now, let's see. I'm just making sure everything's good here. Yeah, we're good. I think all my settings are good. Does it sound all right, everyone? Everything looking and sounding okay? I hope so. And, yeah, that's where we're at. So, there's a lot of conversation. I probably need to take some time to discuss the two interpretations. Okay, I want to do that briefly. Tin Man Pro, did Samuel have a family of his own? Yes, I believe he had 2 sons, and they were not too good. Let's see, birth of Samuel. Samuel given to the Lord. Hannah's prayer. And so he gets dedicated. Oh no, it's Eli's sons. Oh, I'm glad I checked. Cal Magic says, looks fine, just like an IMAX with Dolby sound. Love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you, Cal Magic. We got a real impressive production going on here. Tin Mine says, that's right. Yeah, I might be wrong actually about that. It's Eli who had the worthless sons. It's in the narrative about Samuel. Let's see. Epitime, Samuel also had worthless sons. Okay, I got you. Thank you, Epitime. Ah, there you go. 8-3. Cool. Yep. Israel demands a king. When Samuel became old, he made his sons judges over Israel. Joel and Abijah, judges in Beersheba. Thank you, Epitime. I appreciate that. Awesome. Tin Man, just thinking Samuel was set aside to serve God. That's right. And most say he was a Nazirite, similar to Samson, actually. A lot of interpreters say that Samuel was a Nazirite. She doesn't explicitly say that. Hannah doesn't explicitly say that when she dedicates him to the Lord, but it's hinted at because there's a discussion of, I believe, the razor will not touch his head. Let's see. Right here. I've drunk neither wine or strong drink. Oh. May God grant you what you have asked of him. So, anyway. Cal Magic, Eli's sons were worthless, but later in the book, Samuel's sons were bad too. Samuel 9, which promulgated the demand for a king. There you go. What's up, Matthew? Good to see you. Good to see you, Matthew. What's up, Pastor Tanner? Keep me in your prayers, please. I hurt my back at work. Well, that's no good. Guys, let's pray right now. Pray right now. I'm sorry to hear that, Matthew. I hope you feel better. Let's go ahead and pray, guys. Power and collective prayer. we'll get right back to it. Father, we thank you so much for this time that we could stream together this evening and focus on your word. I pray that you would give us wisdom, understanding, clarity as we try to look into this narrative, Lord, and I just pray that you would direct our steps. I want to pray right now for our brother Matthew. Please help him. May you heal him, and may this injury not persist or last too long, but may he have peace in you during this time. May he not be in too much pain, and may you draw him closer to you through this situation, Lord God, and may he trust in you. We thank you for your grace. We thank you for your mercy. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. All right. All right. Thanks, everyone. Good to kick off the stream with a little bit of prayer here early on. Amen. Amen. What's up, Angie? Good to see you. Oh, come on. Whoa. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Angie. Thank you. I don't know why I didn't play. Let's try to redo that. Let's see. Yeah, we're not getting the audio. That's not encouraging. Why no audio? I don't know. Guys, normally there's an audio alert associated with that. Anyway, I appreciate that very much, Angie. Thank you. Angie subscribed at tier 1 and 3-month gift from Tinker Teen. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Angie. Appreciate the resub. Appreciate you always hanging out. Much love, much love. All right, let's go ahead and continue. Yes, my pleasure, Matthew. I hope you get better, brother. Hope you get better, brother. And so we need to talk about the two interpretations, but that one's going to be relatively brief. I don't think we need to spend too much time on that discussion. It's going to be there, don't get me wrong, but we'll talk about the two interpretations, and then we need to kind of answer some primary questions, in a sense, about Jephthah. Now, I do think there's a Christological theme here, okay? And I heard this from one pastor. He said Jephthah himself is an antitype of Christ because Jephthah sacrificed his daughter for himself in his own victory. So he's an antitype of Christ. And then Jephthah's daughter is a type of Christ because she sacrifices herself for the sake of others, right? So I definitely want to conclude with that. So that'll be number 4. Christocentric typology, right? So I definitely want to conclude with that. And I need to talk about the two interpretations up front, but that leaves us a couple points for us to spend the majority of our time, right? So let's go ahead and look at some of these. Many think he did sacrifice his daughter. Some think he did not. So I'm going to talk about that explicitly. Split is mostly driven by our very passage. Right. How can he make it into the Hall of Fame of Faith? That the vow must be kept is the hinge of the story. Yep. And one commentator said, look, this account is not meant to answer questions. It's instead meant to raise questions so you can try to answer them. It's a neat sidestep. Neat dodge there. So we've got that. These are just placeholders, so I'll just move them aside. Now, one pastor said, let me see, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, so some of the applications here. One is that we learn some things about God, right? That is, our God is not one to be bargained with, so don't try to do it. Also, you need to know God's word. You need to know what he wants, because Jephthah wouldn't have made his rash vow if he knew what God wanted. A lot of people say that Jephthah's failing is his lack of knowledge of the word. He doesn't know Torah, and that's his problem. So that's one potential application. We can talk about understanding and knowing the word. And if he knew the word, he would have known his options. Some commentators pointed out the fact that there's actually a stipulation in Leviticus for rescinding vows. If somebody makes a vow, there's a stipulation in Leviticus for how you can rescind it. And so clearly Jephthah didn't know the word. That's one of the applications a lot of pastors like to make. Cal Magic says, does presenting two interpretations cause any issues with your congregation? At this point, no, Cal Magic. Now, when I first started, yes, that would present problems because a lot of people told me, I don't want to hear all the options. I want to hear thus saith the Lord, right? So when you come up and tell me, oh, here's a bunch of different potential interpretations, a lot of people at first were saying like, that doesn't look good on the pastor or the word itself. And so a lot of people told me right off the bat, they didn't like that. But I will tell you, as I've entered into a more symbolic and typological approach to the scriptures, people are more and more open to dual interpretations or more even theoretical ideas in the pulpit. So that's going better for me. And I prefer it that way because I like to have more of a conversation around the text, right? I like to have discussion. And so I like it that way. But I could understand why some would not. So no, it doesn't cause any issues with my congregation, but I had that initially for sure. Now people are used to it and like it. And I have many independent type people in my congregation who have explicitly told me, I'm happy to disagree with you. And I say, yeah, that's good. I'm okay with that. So just kind of different style, you know. Now, the consequences are significant for Jephthah and his daughter. His daughter is not a pair. Oh, so one other pointed out that Jephthah engages in victim blaming here. Check this out. If we go back, Jephthah makes his rash vow, okay? And then he comes home. As soon as he saw her, he tore his clothes and said, Alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low. You have become the cause of great trouble to me. I have opened my mouth to the Lord. I cannot take back my vow. And a lot of people said he's engaging in victim blaming here, right? So that's an interesting take. And then not only that, some have said that Jephthah's daughter is to be praised. It's laudable that she chooses to go along with it and offer herself as a sacrifice. And a lot of people said that essentially that encourages victim blamers, and it encourages people to, like, it encourages women to continue in, say, abusive relationships or situations. Okay, so here, these are some of the interpretations. These are some of the takes that are relevant, right? Now, I don't know how much of this I'll bring up in the sermon itself, but these are some of the ways people have treated it. Let's see. Dirt, hello. Good to see you. I have an off-topic question. Maybe it can be added to your teaching today. My question is, can the timeline be synced to other resources? I don't think so, Dirt. I don't think so. I've actually poked around with the timeline before trying to figure out how to do that, and I couldn't figure it out, right? So let's go ahead and bring it up and see. And I'm assuming if we zoom out a decent amount. Oh, there we go. It's just populating. So there's a lot in here. I've tried to go into some of these events and see if I can't sync them up. And I can't seem to do it, which is a shame because I think the timeline is populated from books for the most part. You'll see those timeline tags in your books while you're reading. Dirt says, that's unfortunate. That would be awesome. I agree. I don't know of any way of doing it, Dirt. I don't know of any way. I might have to do a video at some point on the timeline and how to get the best value out of the timeline, because I honestly don't consult it as much as I would like. I know it's here. I know it offers immense value, but I just don't utilize it as much as I could. And so, yeah, I definitely need to dig into the timeline more and maybe do a video on it. Equipping Faith, I'm frustrated with the new timeline. I like the old one better. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you on that. It's a good resource to be able to use, but yeah, there's, I don't know. I haven't unlocked the full potential of the timeline. I guess I'll tell you guys that. Mere Dirt, it is an underused tool. Yes, indeed. Indeed. Yep. Cal Magic says resources are linked to the timeline, but the opposite isn't available. See, that's the problem. Yep. Resources are linked to the timeline, but the opposite isn't available. So if you're reading a resource that has dates in it, it'll link you to the timeline and you can click it and it opens it just like the fact book. But my understanding is the same as what you just described, Cal Magic, that the opposite is not available. And again, that's a real shame. I wonder if you can't use the advanced search to dig into the timeline in some special way. Yeah, I need to do a video on it. I'm not going to try to do it on the fly, but I need to do a video on maximizing, getting maximum value out of the timeline, for sure, for sure. Good question, Dirt. Good question. I guess that's not too bad, right? At least it's half there. Half there. Cal Magic says, the former prophets, Joshua, Judges, Samuel, Kings, are there to show how the people lived out rightly and wrongly and interpreted or followed Torah, right? Did they do it well or not? Yeah, that's a good point, Cal Magic. Dirt, I know there are links within the timeline. Yeah, as you navigate around within it. I got to do a video. I got to do a timeline video. Look, let's add it to the notes right now. Let's add it to the notes. I got an ongoing list, guys, of video ideas. It just keeps growing, okay? It just keeps growing. So I'm going to go down here to the very bottom and put timeline deep dive. I have interest in... let me know what you guys think of this. And I'm curious. I'm 90% decided on this already, but I'll throw it out there for you guys who are viewing now. Would you guys be interested on an introductory video to discourse analysis? Okay, if you're anything like me, you've got all of these resources from Rungi on the high definition Old Testament, high definition New Testament, discourse analysis, all that type of stuff, and you just don't use them very much. If you're anything like me, okay? If you're anything like me, you have these resources and they're not being utilized very well. Would you guys watch, or would you be interested in a short video on how to get the most bang for your buck out of discourse analysis without having to study books and books and books about it? Because that's my goal, right? Is I want to figure out how a week-to-week pastor-preacher can get some good value out of discourse analysis resources without doing tons and tons of initial research, right? So curious if you guys would find that helpful. I'm mostly decided I want to do that, but yeah, I'm curious if you guys would find value there. Cal Magic says, insert note into upcoming videos, volume 3. Yes, there are a lot of upcoming videos here. It's a Logos. Logos presents a rich opportunity to dig into video ideas. There's just so many options. Equipping Faith, that is a good idea. Go for it. Okay. I probably will Equipping Faith. I've spent a decent amount of time this week digging into, right here you can see, I've been working through the Introducing New Testament Discourse Grammar and just some discourse analysis materials. And I want to get a good sense of it. I also started reading one of Stanley Porter and D.A. Carson's books on discourse analysis to kind of prep myself for it, potentially. So I appreciate the feedback. Appreciate the feedback, Equipping Faith. Okay, so let's go back. Let's head back over to Canvas. And yeah, so we've got some good applications here. Maybe we do as a main point something like Jephthah's missteps. And they might both be tied to not knowing the word. And so the encouragement could be know the word, right? Read your Bible. Know what God wants. Okay? So that's that's a very standard evangelical messaging, right? Tin Man says, need to get this guy's mindset. Which guy are you talking about? Jephthah? Trying to get into his mindset and understand? Deep Dive, what is up? Hey, Pastor Tanner, 4 exclamation points. What's up, Deep Dive? I appreciate you. How you doing? Are you having a good week? Now I got to really count them. 1, 2. Looks like 4 for me. Yeah, exactly, Tin Man. What was he thinking? What was he thinking? That's one of the things we need to get into. So that's exactly right. I think if we give the 2 interpretations and then we jump into the missteps, I think that'll set people on the right path at least to discuss it. right? Cal Magic says, Biblical Critical Theory by Christopher Watkin. New books I picked up. Yes, Biblical Critical Theory. Did it come out yet? I actually got to attend a Christopher Watkin lecture through RTS before he published his book. And it was a very thought-provoking lecture. So once I saw he was releasing a book, I pre-ordered it. Did it come through? Yes. You got it on Kindle, Cal Magic? Nice. Once I saw it on Logos, I had to jump in. So I got to attend a Christopher Watkin lecture. It was really good, very thought-provoking. And I was very pleased when I saw his book come out, right? So cool. And I paid full price for this sucker, right? But I got to attend a lecture of his, and I got to ask him questions, and he answered my questions. So yeah, this is going to be fun to dig into. I think it's like a 700-page monster, too. Okay, not quite. 600. That's still good. That's still really good. So, awesome. What a good book. This one's going to be fun to dig into. Good recommendation, Cal Magic. And then the other one you say is Joshua Typology in the New Testament by Cybeck. This one I wasn't aware of. I'm guessing it's not in Logos. Yeah, that's an interesting one, Cal Magic. I'm going to go ahead and put that down real quick. Cool. All right. Deep Dive says, doing good. Glad to be on the live stream after missing the last couple. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, I always enjoy having you around, Deep Dive. You've always got really insightful comments, so I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out. Awesome. Okay, so that is kind of the theology proper approach, and there's certainly precedence for that. Let's look at some of the other ways of interpreting Jephthah's vow here. Now, surprisingly, there are actually some interesting interpretations that would almost interpret Jephthah a little bit more positively, at least implicitly. Look at... One pastor said this. They entitled their sermon where they preached on Jephthah's vow, "Have you kept your promises?" Whoa, really? Are you implying that Jephthah's to be lauded for what he did? That's a pretty big one, right? So that's tough. Cal Magic says it's pricey, but it's worth it. Yes, Christopher Walken. Or maybe you're saying Cybeck. I wrote Cybeck down, so I need to check it out. Yeah, I'm all over typology lately, guys. You guys know that. If you find anything on typology, let me know. Gotta get into the typology. Where's my pen? I need to write Cybeck down. I'll get it. Tin Man Pro, his words were haphazard and he followed through at his daughter's cost. That's right. And that's why some say he's an antitype of Christ. Because Christ followed through at his own cost. Big difference there. Okay. So that's a good one. Let's see what else. Some have the application of trust in God's power to overcome your past so that he can change and use them. Okay. You know, I see that. It feels a little light. Accept God's grace instead of compensating to shore up our own unworthiness before God. See, that's another aspect of the narrative. He didn't even need to make the vow, right? It's like he needed to add on to what God was going to do. He needed to confirm it. Like, God was going to cause him to succeed before he made the vow. Like, why did he do it? So let's throw that out there actually as well. So he made a lot of mistakes. Didn't need to make the vow. Because in doing that, he's sort of acting like the pagans do, right? Like, that's how a lot of people interpret it, that he's acting like the pagans, that he needs to get God on his side, right? He needs to purchase some favor. So he may have more than 2 missteps, okay? Then he didn't know what God was like, i.e. theology proper. If he knew what God was like, he wouldn't have done this, right? You accept mercy, or you want mercy, not sacrifice, okay? So he didn't understand what God was like. He assumed God was like all the other pagan gods. Okay, so that's another good take. Okay, and then he didn't know his options. A lot of people have pointed out that there is a provision in Leviticus for if you make a rash vow, how you can get out of it. So he didn't know his options. Okay, so these are all of his missteps. And he's probably compromised. I've always thought he should have violated the vow after he made it. Like, when you get to that point and your daughter's there, I mean, he had 2 months to think it over. I've always thought he should have just violated his vow. Right? Like, don't get me wrong, it's not ideal, but man. Yeah, there you go. Jesse says attachment to sunk cost vows. Right. Exactly. And so I've always thought he should have just violated his vow at that point. Right? Best to not compound the evil. Again, you desire mercy, not sacrifice. If he knew God, he would realize that's what he should have done. He spoke without thought and prayer. That's a good point. And that's often why it's called his rash vow, right? So being rash in general. Okay. So these are all really good applications. Deep Dive says, I'm looking forward to this particular sermon because I genuinely struggle with what to make of Jephthah after years of reading and teaching the Bible. It's a really tough narrative, Deep Dive. I hate to tell you this, I may not have the good answers, okay? So I hope it's helpful to you, Deep Dive, but I may not have good answers at the end of the day. I may not, right? So, you know, he's obviously got several missteps, right? I put 2 missteps. I think we need to change this to several. Or we'll just call it missteps. Jephthah's missteps. Okay, I think everyone would agree there are missteps here. And we should certainly learn from his mistakes, right? Cal Magic says, the story is also a part of a structure that describes the devolution into dystopia of Israel. You're absolutely right. So, if you read Dan Block, in his mobile ed on Judges, he actually has a chart, if I can find it. He has a chart where he talks about the devolution of holiness from Israel's perspective, right? So it serves like a narrative purpose. And it might only be in the video that he shows it. Yeah, we'll go here. So it's before the minor judges. I think it's in here. Ooh. Let's see. Deep Dive, I won't ask for a refund if I don't get answers. Good, I appreciate that, Deep Dive. That's awesome. Vector, generally you don't have good answers. Much love, Vector. We all appreciate you. Thanks, buddy. Thanks. Let me turn the sound way down on this so he doesn't blow us
They
out.
come from whom we called the minor governors, as opposed to the major governors, whose stories we notice how discussions of these minor characters are distributed throughout the book. In chapter 3, verse 31, we...
How do I mute him? I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to blow out your ears. I'm trying to skip through. Why doesn't it work like YouTube? Why can't I just skip to a timestamp? Okay, never mind. Anyway, the devolution. The devolution of the judges, right? They start out mostly righteous. Locke uses a framework, and maybe it's just in his commentary. Does he have a... Yeah, he has a commentary. Locke has a framework where he's talking about each of the judges, and there are certain things God does in each section with each judge, and it gets in worse and worse and worse down through the judges. Oh, this might be relevant. I didn't even see this. Comparison of Jephthah and Abraham's sacrifice. That might be relevant. It's in his course for judges intro, I think. See, I was looking through there, but I couldn't find it. Let's, you think it's in the intro? Ah, downward spiral. There you go. Yes. And so this is a good one right here. You can see it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So Jephthah, you're about at the worst it is. And he also talks about that downward spiral. Part of the way he establishes it is he goes to the text itself and he talks about how each judge is referred to, right? So each judge is referred to in a certain way. And he says you get less and less of those references. So Othniel is described as he did this, he did this, he did this, he did this, right? And then Ehud, it's described as he did this, he did this, he did this. And then Barak, it's he did this. And you see what I mean? It just slowly descends according to him, right? Thanks, Cal Magic. All right. Let's catch up here. I am going to take this devolution into dystopia idea over. Just putting that over in the canvas. Cal Magic says, do you think there was an aspect of Jephthah that indicates through his vow that God cannot be manipulated or bargained with? It's a feeling I have due to several related stories in the Old Testament. I think so, because one of the aspects that a lot of people have, he made this vow before God gave him the victory. So one of the questions that certain interpreters have asked is, why did God give him the victory then? You see what I mean? Like, okay, he makes this vow without God giving them the victory yet. So God could have been like, okay, I was going to give you the victory, but now I'm not, in order to save a life. But he didn't do that. And so is there that peace? Is there that peace of God trying to, in a sense, teach that lesson? Like, he's going to give the victory regardless, and it's your mistake that you made. It's also a chiasm with Gideon at the center. I've seen that before, and I think that's why he has the dots at a certain size. What's up, Twitch Theologian? Good to see you. How's it going tonight? Sorry I haven't messaged you. I've been busy with meetings the last few weeks. Hey, don't worry, man. My life is super busy for like the next 10 months, okay, Twitch Theologian, so don't you worry. I'm wall to wall. I got so much going on, it's ridiculous. Vector. Nice. That's actually one of the themes of Judges, Vector, is humor. There's a humorous element to a lot of what's going on in Judges. So I think I've settled in now on what I want for kind of my second section. And that's What role is God playing here? We've got plenty of Jephthah's missteps, right? Is God required to step in and do something about this? Right? Like what role is God playing here? Yeah, here you go. Here's your quote. Cal Magic. The portrayal of the sacrifice fits the pattern of moral decline in the book of Judges, and it forms an integral and interconnected part of the story of Jephthah as a whole. Moreover, as a part of this whole, it reflects an important theme stressed elsewhere by the history. When Israel sacrifices like foreigners do, it will act like foreigners as well. This is why the story of Jephthah's sacrifice is followed immediately by the story of Ephraim, which acts just like the Ammonites, the foreign nation in this account, by invading Gilead. But we must press this assessment further. Why does this keep happening? The ignorance of Torah. End quote. I got that from one pastor. So we can talk about Jephthah's missteps, and there's plenty of material there. But we can also talk about God, what role he plays here. Is he obligated to step in, right? What do we learn about God from this story and interacting and living in God's world? Let's see. Vector says, nice. I always thought it was weird to call out him being left-handed, but then someone explained some of the reasoning behind it, and it's always stuck with me since then. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, the humor is a very important theme in the book of Judges. It's present in many places. Many, many places. All right. Twitch Theologian says, Pastor, question for you. Are you having Christmas Eve and Christmas services? Yes, we're doing both. We're doing both. We're going to change the Christmas Day service, though. We're going to make the Christmas Day service shorter and more oriented around the children. So the children are going to sing a song, and then I'm going to preach a very short sermon on Christmas Day. So going to be a little bit of an adjustment, Twitch Theologian. Yeah, it was interesting this year. It's interesting this year. So that's what we're doing. What are you guys doing? Tin Man Pro, Judges 11:10 makes me think elders forced him into following through, thinking he would not have followed through. And the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, the Lord will be a witness between us if we do not do as you say. Ooh, that's intriguing. Let me take that down, Tin Man. Very nice. All right. In Samuel, the Israelites took the ark to the battle and lost, losing the ark to the Philistines, who played hot potato with it and sent it back, proving God answers to no one. He is sovereign. So I think there was a relationship to your passage. Yes, that's a good cross-reference for that idea. Oh, magic. Very nice. Well, I'm going to be honest, guys. We got tons of content now. Now it's just about sorting through it, right? So we've got the two interpretations, we've got his missteps, then we've got God and the role God is playing here, and then we've got the fact that he turns it into a Christocentric move, right? So we've got everything we need, but now it's about how to explicate it all, right? Fill it all out. Epitimi, maybe I should do sermon prep so that chat can do my homework. There you go, Epitimi. Epitimi knows my secret now, right? When you guys write the sermon for me, makes it a lot easier. That's awesome, Epitimi. That's good stuff. You guys make it a lot easier for me when you write the sermon. Vector says the left-handed thing wasn't humor. It's significant because he was able to hide his weapon, because typically guards search where right-handed people would hide them. So he was able to hide his. Oh. And then also the place the guy was, they built the stairs to make it hard for right-handed people to fight. But since he was left-handed, it gave him an advantage. Wow. I'd never heard of such a thing. Not that I would know or anything like that. That's really cool. Yeah, little details like that can be really helpful to understanding the narrative. That's for sure. Twitch Theologian, not sure yet. I haven't spoken to the elders about it yet, but a few people were assuming we wouldn't be having a service on Christmas Day. I've been talking with some pastors around me, and everybody is doing something different. You know what's so funny is we brought it up some on Logos's site. They were trying to advertise them, right? So I believe there's the Advent for Everyone series. Maybe it's not a series. I thought there was an ad. Maybe I don't have this one. I thought N.T. Wright did a little book or maybe series of books called Advent for Everyone. This is the first year we're doing Advent, so I'm not used to it yet.
Well, here's the sleep shop's answer.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head, Epitimi, but we are doing Advent this year, so I better find out quick, huh? Let me know if you find out any.
Well, here's the sleep shop's answer.
Twitch Theologian, message me with your Advent questions. I'll be glad to help. Well, there you go. There's a resource right there. Twitch Theologian, I would feel bad not having service because it's Christmas, but it's not up to me. The session runs the church. Ah, I got you. Well, there you go. Tin Man Pro, thinking his loyalty and obedience was to the elders, not God. Yeah, that's relevant. Man, we got lots of good info. Cool. Epitimi, no wonders, just wondering since you're the Logos dude. Yeah, I feel you, Timmy. And I saw a lot of advertisements for Advent. See, the problem is I've never done it. So I will probably know more by the end of this year. But yeah, I'm kind of winging it this year. Deep dive. Our church is going to be meeting with another local church for 1224 and then having our own service 1225 since we meet in the afternoon. Ah, see, that's an interesting way to do it. Team up for one of them and then do a little bit different thing for your own. Yeah, I think that's a nice option. Victor says, really cool stuff. So saying he was left-handed seems out of the blue or insignificant, but it's really important to the story. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And there's a lot of passages like that in the Bible. The details. That's actually one aspect of discourse analysis. Why is this detail here, right? If they chose to put the detail, there should be a reason, you know. I forget how Runge puts it, but it's something like choice implies interpretation or something like that. Choice implies meaning or something. He's got like an approach like that. Vector, now I'm intrigued. I see. Well, discourse analysis is a deep subject, and so if when we do a video on it, the first one at least will just be an intro style video. Okay, let's dig back into this. We've got all of Jephthah's missteps. Now, let's list God's situation in this. So, God is not obligated to fix our poor decision making in real time. Something like that, right? The way one pastor put it is, you know, we actually have real... Yeah, here you go. This is one pastor. I liked this read. Recognizing this fact should prompt us to think seriously about the actions we contemplate, because we cannot assume that God will intervene and prevent negative consequences or collateral damage. God has granted us the dignity of causality, for better or for worse. Possessing this freedom gives us genuine power to impact God's world, either positively or negatively, but it also carries with it grace responsibility. In contrast to Jephthah, we must make sure we know God's standards and act accordingly. Otherwise, our actions may prove to be horrifying and bring frightening and tragic consequences. So, I think that's a helpful application as well. Just recognizing the freedom that God gives us in the world. Timmy says, I always wonder if I should keep on doing a Christmas series every year. I hope I don't run out of things to say about the birth of Jesus. Yeah, there you go. You know, we need to be reminded, Timmy. So even if you end up preaching the same type of thing, you know, it's good. Comes once a year, right? I feel you, Timmy, but there are some where repetition is good, I think. And that's probably one of those. Cal Magic. How important do you think the knowledge of original languages is to discourse analysis? I have a couple discourse analysis books, but they are for Greek and Hebrew. And my video, I'm hoping to do a video, guys, on discourse analysis for those who can't read the original languages, right? Like just intro to discourse analysis. What is it? What's the point? Etc. I think if you're going to utilize Logos's Hebrew discourse analysis, you need to know the original languages a little bit more than if you use the Greek. The discourse analysis for Hebrew, this one, does not have a lot of bells and whistles when it comes to helping you identify the discourse analysis themes and stuff like that, right? So this one is much less helpful for a non-Hebrew reader than is this one. Because this one has a lot of the discourse analysis ideas set off on the side, that helps a ton, an absolute ton, okay? So, but again, I'm going to do a video probably on discourse analysis and how you can get the most out of your discourse analysis resources with very little investment, right? Because you can go down the rabbit hole. You know, Runge explicitly states it. Like he did so much work in discourse analysis. You can go way down the rabbit hole. And I just want to give people an accessible, you know, introduction to discourse analysis in a way that will actually help them to be able to utilize those resources. All right. Twitch Theologian, I give the same Christmas, Ash Wednesday, Good Friday, Easter, and Pentecost sermon. They get more refined every time. Ah, I got you. So you're focusing your attention and energy to improve them more and more and more. I see that. Deep Dive says, to Epitome, I would encourage not just focusing on the birth narratives, but considering the prophecies relating to Christ, how his offices tie into the seasons, etc. That would really expand. Absolutely. That gives you a lot more material to work with. I did the latter last Christmas, and it was fun to study. It was a fun study that was different for our folks, and they found it helpful. The season, i.e. the holiday season. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty good approach. Deep Dive. I like that. So what about God? God is not obligated to fix our poor decision-making in real time. Trying to think of like how God works this together for good type of thing too, you know? Hello, Major. Good to see you. Welcome. Major says this, just thinking outside of the box. In the Hebrew, the conjunctive that is translated and can also be translated or. So there are two parts to the vow, dedicated to the Lord and a burnt offering. Oh, okay. You're talking. Yes. So that does get brought up here. I want to point everyone's attention to what Major's talking about. There is one interpretation that says, to meet me when I return in peace, right here. Whatever comes out from the doors of my house to meet me when I return in peace from the Ammonites shall be the Lord's. And what Major is saying is this little word right here, and, could also be translated or. And the point being that there are two ideas, two separate ideas here. Whatever comes out from my doors of my house to meet me when I return in peace from the Ammonites shall be the Lord's. And this interpretation usually goes with, oh, he made her a nun, right? He offered her up to be celibate, dedicated to the Lord. And instead of interpreting it and here, right, it should instead be interpreted or. And then he says, or I'm going to offer up a burnt offering. Okay, so that he's got two options there. So that's one take. And that's the other interpretation of the whole situation. And the idea being she's weeping down here over her virginity because she's dedicated to the Lord, right? Now, this is not how I take the passage, okay? But some take it that way. Now, I would say the reason I think most people, if they take the passage this way, the reason I think they do it is to get us out of a jam when it comes to Hebrews 11:32, right? If Jephthah truly offers up his daughter as a burnt offering, why on earth is he in the Hall of Fame? However, that's a much easier pill to swallow if he offered up his daughter as a nun, if you will, and she was dedicated to the Lord, and then he just made a burnt offering on the side that wasn't his daughter. Okay. So that's the other take, right? And it's a take that's helpful for getting us out of a jam when it comes to Hebrews 11:32, but that's just not the interpretation I take. I take the interpretation that he truly did offer her as a burnt offering or a sacrifice, right? Rosby, what is up? Good to see you. Welcome. One of my favorite confusing sections of Scripture. That's fantastic. It's good to see you, Rosby. Thanks for swinging by. Major, did I explain that interpretation well? Major says, secondly, what could possibly come out of Jephthah's house, a human or even an unclean animal, since his daughter weeps for her virginity and then becomes an annual event, makes me think she was dedicated to the Lord. Right. And that's one take. So let's go back here. Major's actually really helping us out because when we discuss in our first point the two interpretations, when we discuss this, we need to include the details of how it went down. Okay. Okay, so is the dedicated the same thing as the burnt offering? It's a good point, Major. Major says, why else would she weep for her virginity? Seems totally irrelevant. Right. Why is that detail included? Why is that detail included if she's being offered as burnt offering? Why does she weep for 2 months about her virginity? Okay. And then again, how on earth Hall of Fame? So those are 3 good arguments, right? Those are 3 good arguments. Now, I will say I listened to 4 lectures from the Evangelical Theological Society, and every single one of them interprets Jephthah as truly sacrificing his daughter. Every single one of them. Okay, so that doesn't mean, the majority says that's not a good argument, right? But when you have 4 major interpreters taking a look at the passage, trying to get a sense of it, and all of them kind of conclude, yeah, they think he did offer her up as a burnt offering. That's not to be sneezed at either. Major makes a very good case, guys. Major makes a very good case for the interpretation that he did not offer her as a sacrifice. And look, this is a quote that I took from one of the lecturers from the Evangelical Theological Society. He put it succinctly: many think he did it, some think he did not. And Major is representing that second position. Some think he did not. And these are good arguments, okay? These are good arguments. Corey, good to see you. Corey says, the Faith Hall of Fame, good stuff. Good diagrams, Pastor Tanner. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Twitch Theologian, got to pick up my daughter from youth group. Have a blessed study. Thank you so much, Twitch Theologian. Yeah. Tin Man, I see his oath treated like a contract. Right, that's relevant. Absolutely. Yep. Let's see, what else? Cal Magic, Heiser has a book in the works, Following the Magi, a primer on biblical astronomy. Not sure what the status is, but I got a PDF of the intro, which is a couple years old. It looks good. That sounds exciting, Cal Magic. Wow. Wow. That would be really cool. Yeah, very interesting. All right. So I'm so glad that Major, because I am going to spend my first main point talking about the two main interpretations. I actually had, this is no joke, completely independent of my study and the fact that I'm going to preach on this topic. I had somebody in one of my Q&As bring this interpretation up. They said, hey, I heard an interpretation that Jephthah didn't actually sacrifice his daughter, but instead she was dedicated to be a virgin all the rest of her days. And they said, what did you think of that? And I said, I am aware of that. I don't know all the details on it, but I lean towards the position that he did sacrifice his daughter. And now I get to treat it in more detail, and I think Major has given us a great summary of this stance, right? And there's a reason that many commentators take this position. Major says, I would go back to the original Hebrew and do more work. Well, like I said, I'm presenting both interpretations. So, and I know that may not be typical in a sermon to present both, but I am going to be presenting both interpretations as an option. I want you to know there are no other texts indicating the sacrifice. I want you to know, Major, your opinion is the minority opinion. Doesn't mean it's wrong, but it's the minority. I'm not over here like completely out in left field with a random weird interpretation, right? I'm going with the majority, and your opinion is the minority opinion. It may be the right one, and I'm going to present both options, and my congregants can select or choose which ones they see fit. But it's not as though, Major, if I just looked at the Hebrew a little bit closer, I would come to your conclusion. That's a selective reading of the information, right? So, all right. Let's see. Corey says, I see 15 books next to you, Pastor. Diving deep. I'm trying. I remember back in Bible college having 4 Bible dictionaries and 6 commentaries all spread out across a desk in a university library. That's right, Corey. And I used to do that. And spread them all out, and Logos has made it so much easier. Major says, I understand what you're doing. I'm just presenting what I read. I understand fully. Perfect. No, and I appreciate that, Major. And again, I am going to present this approach because it's a valid read of the passage. That's for sure. It's a valid read of the passage. Let me find, I just want you to know the work I had done on, let's see, Evangelical Theological Society. Let me pull this up. And I'll tell you the lectures I listened to, in case you're interested in doing a little bit more digging yourself. But none of them dive into the Hebrew with the depth you're talking about, right? So, and I'm trying to look here. So this is from ETS 2009. In ETS 2009, they actually had 4 speakers present a take on Jephthah. And let's see. Just trying to find it here. Steve Mathewson. And just so you guys know, this info is on word.mp3. I just go to word.mp3 and type Jephthah in to the text, right? And you're able to pull up. One of them is Chisholm, okay, Dr. Robert Chisholm, right? Another is Steve Mathewson. And I found Chisholm's approach, I found his talk to be the most convincing, okay? And then there was another decent talk. It doesn't list the other speakers. But yeah, I listened to 4 talks on it. Every single one of them concludes he did offer his daughter as a burnt offering. So, yeah, just good for general study. And like I said, I'm going to present both opinions. All right. So we've got the 2 interpretations. We've got Jephthah's missteps. We've got what about God in the situation? And man, I'm trying to think of the aspects of, like, there's that take of, well, why didn't God stop it? And I hear that, but there's more to it than that as well. What else? I guess one of the things is kind of God working things together for good. Because he still utilizes this in the larger structure of Judges. And then it also leads into my last point, where you essentially have a type-antitype motif when it comes to Jephthah and his daughter. Jephthah himself is an antitype of the Christ sacrifice because he sacrifices his daughter for his own good. And Jephthah's daughter is a type of the Christ sacrifice because she sacrifices herself for the sake of another, right? And so that's a good Christocentric theme. It'll be nice and healthy to land on and get our attention focused on Jesus. So I think that's a good one. And if we talk about God working all things together for good, we can talk about not only the larger structure of Judges, but then we can also lead into the Christocentric approach, right? Okay, I just want to read some of the other notes I had taken, make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, he talks here about the ignorance of Torah. That's the issue. And we're already going to talk about the decline, the larger decline in the book of Judges. More important themes stressed elsewhere. Yeah, good. Jephthah is influenced by pagan religion, has compromised his own faith or belief. This is a common take. Compromised morality right here. Here we go. Perfect. Corey says, Pastor Tanner, are you pursuing your PhD currently? I will next. So I don't actually have my full MDiv yet. I still have roughly 20 some odd credits to finish. So I've been hacking away at my MDiv for about a decade. And our pastor ended up having to leave the church because of health issues in his family. And so rather than going to a pulpit committee, the church voted me in as the pastor. So I'm still in the process of completing my master's. I'm scheduled to walk this May. Okay. So between now and August, I have to complete all those credits. I'm allowed to, between now and May, I need to finish up to 7 credits left. And then with those last 3 months, I can finish the last 7 credits. So that's the plan, Corey, is to walk this May. And then I will pursue my PhD afterwards. And I plan on it. I have several book ideas that I want to pursue right now, but I don't know which one, and I don't know which program I would like to get placed in. So I'm probably going to take a pause after I finish the MDiv and figure out how I want to pursue the PhD, if that makes sense. So yeah, there's some detail there. Tin Man, I think this deals with peer pressure and reckless words and legalism. Oh, there's definitely something to that. Absolutely, Tin Man. Absolutely. Corey, I got an MA currently, may pursue an MDiv in a year or so. 10-year grind to get the MDiv, definitely worth it for sure in the end. Yeah, and you know what's funny, Corey, is once I got the job, my class taking slowed to a crawl. I went from taking, multiple classes a year to the last 4 years as the pastor, I take 1 or 2 classes a year, right? So I should have finished already, but because I'm also bivocational. So once I got the job, now I have 2 jobs, right? So I have my day job and then I have the pastor job. It doesn't leave a lot of room for finishing the classes off. But we're doing a sprint here. We're doubling down, and we're going to try to finish by May. Really August, because I'm going to have to utilize those last 3 months to finish the last 7 credits. Tin Man, was Jephthah in a position of authority, wondering what the social climate was like? That's a really good question, Tin Man. You know, we don't have a ton of detail. We do know of the fact that he was a judge, of course. But, so he had some authority and power, but how much? I don't know that we have that much information on that one. And that'd be a good spot to dig into the Bible dictionaries a little bit more depth. Tin Man. Yep. All right. Let's see. Looks like we're caught up. And let's read the last comment here. God's people self-destruct when they disobey God and get their values from their pagan neighbors. Dan Block calls the book of Judges the Canaanization of Israel because they're on that downward spiral, right? So yeah, under our point number 2 here, we can talk about Block's take that this is Canaanization and all that good stuff. So, okay, I think that's good. We got a good structure here. So we got plenty of opportunity. I want to call this 5, and then I want to treat a 4 here. Pagan influence on his approach. And then the compromised morality, and then the rashness. I'll put that as number 6. Okay, very good. Very good. Tin Man, I wonder if you could apply this story to church politics. Yeah, I see where you're going with the different ways he was being influenced and things like that. It can be very tough to... Yeah, it can be very tough to stand your ground and do what you think is the right thing when you're being pressured so much, right? And you can see that in political areas, even, or perhaps especially in church politics, for example. So, yeah, we get a good learning here. We see how God works us together for good, and that can lead us straight into the Christocentric theme. I mean, are we missing anything? I feel like we're covering all the high points, right? Maybe how people could try to manipulate the pastor. Yeah, that can certainly happen at times. That can certainly happen at times. I just want to make sure with Major's approach, there is no other text indicating the sacrifice. That's relevant also. Cool. Corey says, if I were to consider a PhD, I would maybe analyze contemporary Catholic apologist arguments for saints, relics, papacy, magisterium, etc. I know Gavin Ortland has a saga going with Trent Horn. Yeah, I'm a fan of Gavin Ortland. Gavin is, I don't know how to put it. He's more academic. He's more well-studied than myself, right? Like I'm not going to pretend to compare him to Trent Horn, but I really look up to Gavin and the work he does on here. And I think he does a great job. And I think God has called me to a little different space than him, but I really appreciate what he brings to the table. He very admirable. And I love Gavin's open-mindedness in his discussion. I got a lot of respect for Gavin. Absolutely. And yeah, I've seen the thumbnails for the Trent Horn saga, but I don't know many of the details, right? I haven't had a chance to watch it, right? So, yeah, that's interesting, Corey. Okay, I think I'm going to call it here, guys. I like to go a little bit longer, but now we're reaching kind of an inflection point where if I was to keep going, now we really need to start delineating all these things, you know, kind of drilling down into more detail, all that type of stuff. And it's been kind of a long day. And I'm starting to push a little bit towards family devotional tonight. So I think I'm going to call it here. Like I said, I would love to keep going this week's just been a real challenge with my schedule, and it's been really hard to find time to stream. So it's not forever. There are seasons, time and season for everything. Ecclesiastes 3, right? So for now, you know, a little bit shorter stream today and less stream this week than I would typically like to do, excuse me. But we'll have more in the future, okay? So like I said, just a season. We're going to keep pressing forward. Tin Man says, cool, been fun. Indeed, I appreciate all your feedback, Tin Man. A lot of good ideas and good discussion. I think this one will shape up to be a pretty thought-provoking sermon, to say the least, right? I don't know how many people will be convinced or different things like that, but it is what it is. Cal Magic, when I was in college, my parents' church went through a nasty split between families supporting the pastor and the youth pastor. The entire staff ended up quitting, and the church ultimately dissolved. My parents were disgusted with both families. My dad chewed them out in one of their meetings, walked out, and never went back. Wow. Yeah. That's brutal. Holy smokes. Those things happen. Just glad you were here, PT. Thanks so much. Thank you, Major. And honestly, Major, I know we had a little disagreement there. Your insight is invaluable. And I will. I'll do some more work, okay, Major? I will. I'll do some more work in the original languages. And we'll see. We'll see what I come up with. I'm presenting both views regardless, okay? But what might change is which view I explicitly say I agree with, right? And so I do appreciate you very much, Major. And it's those thought-provoking comments that really help. All right. You guys are awesome. Getting a lot out of this. I appreciate that, Tin Man. You guys are really cool. We'll get more chances in the future, okay? So plan on being here for a long time to come, Lord willing. Appreciate you all very much. Have a great rest of your week. Take care. God bless. Bye.